is the activity on properties of squares and rectangles. The objectives of the activity are to explore and verify the properties of a square and a rectangle using the geoboard. We will also measure and compare the sides, the diagonals and the angles of both the shapes. Then we will try to conclude what are the similarities and differences in the properties of squares and rectangles. Let's understand the concept in hand first. So when we talk about a square has four sides and the length of all the four sides are exactly same. That means all sides are of equal length. Likewise, if you measure each angle of a square, all the four angles are going to measure 90° each, and the two diagonals, that means when you join the opposite vertices, the two lines which are formed, the diagonals are of equal length. So what about the sides? Sides are all same, that means all equal. Opposite sides are always parallel, that is another important property. And then we have the property on angles. All angles are 90° each and the diagonals are equal. Equal means equal in length. And then we have another property on diagonals. The diagonals bisect each other. That means they divide each other equally. That means this point, the point P which we have marked in the figure, is the midpoint of both the diagonals. And then there is another important property of squares, that the diagonals of the squares, they are perpendicular to each other. So three different properties of diagonals. Likewise, if we talk about a rectangle has opposite sides parallel and opposite sides, that means each pair of opposite side is of equal length. So when we talk about the sides, only the opposite sides are same, opposite sides are equal and parallel. That is the first property. Then when we talk about the angles, it is same as the square. That means all the angles are 90° each. And then the diagonals, let's check whether the diagonals also obey the same property or not. In this case, just like squares, the two diagonals are of equal length, the diagonals bisect each other, and the diagonals are not perpendicular. Now that's what is the distinguishing property with squares. So here we have the perpendicular diagonals and here the diagonals are not perpendicular. The material required to perform this activity include a geoboard, rubber bands for making the sides and the diagonals. We need a thread for measuring the sides and the diagonals. We need the regular aids like ruler or set squares, and then the notebook and the pencil, eraser, etc. for performing the activity. Let's now perform this activity of properties of squares and rectangles. To perform this activity on the properties of a square and a rectangle, we have two different observation tables here, one for the squares and the other for the rectangles. As you can see here, we have some rubber bands here and we have a geoboard. Now this geoboard has some nails which are fixed in a particular manner on the wooden board here, and we'll be using this to enumerate the different properties of a square and that of a rectangle. So let's place the geoboard like this and we will pick up the rubber band, and I am going to form a square first. So we can keep one end of the rubber band like this, other end here, and then
corresponding to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth nail is here. So you will have to fix one of the ends like this. And counting from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have to fix the last end here, and that will form the shape of a square. Now, how do you verify the properties of this square? Serial number 1, the first property relates to the sides. So let's measure all the sides of this square using this protractor cum scale. So as you can see, if I measure the side length here, I will get, this is nearly 12, 13, 14 centimeters as the length of the side of this square. So the measurement of the upper side is 14 centimeters, which I will write here, and then I will measure from here to here, and you can see this is also approximately the same thing which I obtained here, 14 centimeters. And likewise, if you keep on measuring all the other sides also, you will get the same measurement, that is approximately 14 centimeter again. And finally the fourth side, that is this side, you can measure it and you will see that this is also nearly 14 centimeters in length. So what do we infer from this? The conclusion which we can draw from this is that all sides are equal in length. All sides are equal. The second property relates to the angles. Now you can see this vertex. If we have to measure what angle is formed by this side and this side, that means this angle, then I will have to use the protractor. So I'll keep the protractor like this so as to align with this horizontal, and you will see that this side is making an angle of exactly 90 degree with the horizontal. So the angle here at this vertex, this angle is 90 degree. So the second property relates to angles, and angles measurement is 90 degree, and you will see that the same holds good here also. If you keep it like this, align this with the horizontal, you will see that the vertical aligns with 90 degree. And likewise, you can rotate the protractor and measure this angle. This will also be 90, and finally measure it like this. This will also give you the exact angle, 90 degree angle. So what do you infer? All angles are 90 degree each. And finally, the third property relates to the diagonals. The diagonals means the length from here to here, the opposite vertices. For measuring this, again I'll be using the scale here, and I will check what is the length of the diagonal. So when I measure this, this is approximately 20 centimeters in length, and I will write 20 centimeters here, the first diagonal. And when I measure the other diagonal, this will approximately be the same thing, see, 20 centimeters again. So 20 centimeter and 20 centimeter means the two diagonals are equal. So both diagonals are equal in length. So these are the properties of a square, and simultaneously we have to do the same thing for rectangle. And for making a rectangle, I will remove these two and put them here. Now this forms a rectangular shape. Now the similar observations will have to be done for the second table, that is the rectangle. Now for this, I will be writing the first one which relates to the sides, the second one which relates to the angles, and the third one which relates to the diagonals. And I will check what are the measurement of all these parameters in case of a rectangle. So when you see the sides, this side I measured it before also, this is 14 centimeters. So one of the side length is 14 centimeters, and when I measure the opposite side, this is also 14 centimeters. As you can see here, this is 14 centimeters. So what do we infer from this? The opposite sides are of equal length. Likewise, if you measure this, this is approximately 7 centimeters, and this is also 7 centimeters here. So the other pair of sides, opposite sides, are 7 centimeter each, and so the conclusion is, in a rectangle the opposite sides are equal. That means they are of equal length. Measuring the angles, you will find the same thing again which you found in the square. All angles are of the same measure, that is 90° each. So if you place the protractor like this, you will find that all angles are measuring exactly 90°. So all angles are 90°, and the property is the same. All angles measure 90° each. And finally the diagonals. So we have to measure the distance between the opposite vertices. Here it is coming out to be 16 centimeters, and on the other way around, if you measure it, it is again 16 centimeters. So along the diagonal column you have to write 16 centimeters and 16 centimeters, and you will write the diagonals are equal. Diagonals are equal. So when you see all the properties of the square and the rectangle, you will observe that the sides of a square are all equal, but in case of a rectangle, the sides which are opposite to each other, only they are of equal length. The angles are exactly the same in case of a square and rectangle. Every angle is 90° each, and in case of diagonals, both the diagonals of a square are equal and both the diagonals of a rectangle are also equal. And that completes our activity on the properties of a square and a rectangle.